dangerous as time. In a minute, you do not find. Just keep through down my enemy. Lose 500. We do not stop riding. As time. In a minute, you do not find. Just keep through down my enemy. And what about you? Things are now in motion. You do not know pain. You do not know you. I'm gonna. As time. In a minute, you do not find. Just keep through down my enemy. And what about you? Things are now in motion. You do not know pain. You do not know you. I'm gonna. Must never let the fighting.
All right, live in the forge. All right, live in the forge. What's that? Oh yeah. What's that? Oh yeah. Okay, let's see if we. Where's that extra audio coming from? I don't think it's actually on the stream. There we go. That should be a little better. Awesome. All right, guys.
As that corner's coming down, are we coming back? We come back on closer on the edge.
Yeah.
And then
So we're looking at what?
as the corner's going down,
Yeah.
okay, do I come back farther on the piece and keep driving at the same angle?
So let me show you what I want to see from that.
Okay, yeah.
So if you look at this, see how we've got this curve right here? I want to just come in. So that just straightened everything out there. Want to start forging it down just like this. And that's where, yep. But the biggest thing that's going to help us out is keeping that straight. This is our very first time doing live streaming during a class. I said it's our first time doing live streaming here in class. Yeah, it's live right now. Oh, now she can actually watch you. So Josh, it seems like you're keeping everything really nice and straight. How do you feel that metal's moving for you?
Not very much.
It's going to be a little bit at a time. Don't expect it to work like Play-Doh. But I think the bigger thing is when you start recognizing what kind of efficiencies are happening, you know, or what the most efficient time is for you to be hammering. That's when you're going to start working the heat and working the hammer at the right ratio.
There's definitely a learning. That's going to take a while to get.
Yeah. Phil, I'd choke up about an inch or so on that hammer. Okay. Turn it flat. What we're trying to do, and Josh, I'll show you as well. What we're trying to do as we're hammering this down, see how that's widening out?
Yeah.
So flip it down a second. Right here, if we don't address that now, what's going to happen is the seal's going to become so wide, and then it's going to roll over. And it's going to create what we call a cold shut. And that cold shut, when we go to sand everything on the grinders later, that cold shut, eventually it's going to become so thin it's going to fall away, and it's going to expose the metal that's laying underneath, but it's going to be pitted in and divoted. So essentially, it's not going to help make a nice uniform surface. Yeah.
So everything's going all right.
Yep. I would actually eventually like to see that sloping from here down. you can actually start your slope from up here down. Okay?
So still hammer on angle.
Yes.
Angle hammer for.
Yeah, it's all about tapering that first slope down. And if you go really hard on that angle, that when we hammer out the bevel, what that's going to give us is something very close to a clip point knife, like a Bowie knife. But if we have a nice gentle slope as we hammer that bevel and stretch that material out, that's when we're going to go ahead and it's going to just elongate and just gently lift that. And it's going to give us a drop point. Not that I don't think Bowie knives aren't cool. However, I really like big Bowies. I mean, I think I have one. That one's not too big. There's a really big one floating around here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. By the way, if you're joining us for the live stream today, feel free say hi on chat. I'm paying attention to these guys more than I'm paying attention to the screen, but I will try to look up. Today we've got Josh and Bill joining us here in the forge. Watch that right arm. It's just you're pitched a little low like you were originally. Push back and choke up. You still want to start hammering here, and then you can work your way back. Now just set this area down first. Next heat, next two heats, whatever. But we want to get that down to a point. Eventually, that slope though is going to start back here and come down.
That's how it always is. Yeah. You always think it's easy watching NFL and come home after the pass. You're like, I could do that. How did you drop that pass?
It looks a lot easier when you're sitting at home watching it on YouTube. Or for those of you at home watching this on Twitch. And yes, before anyone says anything, I realize that my audio and video are not synced up. At least not completely. I haven't actually checked it for how bad it is. Let's see. Oh, well, that's like a 3,000 millisecond delay, isn't it? another big thing is for you guys to make sure that you're taking a proper stance over the anvil. You don't want to get yourself into a position where essentially you're working. You're not going to feel it right away, but you'll feel it Sunday, where you've just been stressing yourself out by standing the wrong way. It's all about comfort, and don't force yourself into it either. Somebody named Tracy Jacobs says hi. Is that your better half, Mr. Jacobs? Yeah. Let's take a look. Your temperature looks fine. Good. At that color, I would definitely go back in. Hey, I think I actually got the audio to sync up correctly. At least for one of the cameras, who knows? Again, they're all wireless IP. But now it means I can take my earbud out and I don't actually have to pay attention to it because I can't hear chat notifications or anything like that anyway.
Coming closer down to a point. I'm getting it closer down at the one corner's coming down closer to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do I do?
So let's see. Who's totally on? You're on the right?
I'm on the left. Yeah,
you're on the left, okay.
Yeah, I'm on the right. See how it's getting closer now to a point.
Again, you still got to pay attention to that right hand of yours. You are definitely dropping too low. That's why it's doing that curve on you. But I'm telling you so you can be conscious of it. It's not a big deal, especially at this stage of the game. Right. We can live with it. We can still work that to our advantage. It's just right. But all you're doing is you're adding an extra step or two. But it will become a little bit more difficult as that steel becomes thinner. So that's something to keep in mind.
It's got to be a feel thing. Just not getting it, you know what I mean?
You're right. It's a feel thing, but it's also about spatial awareness. It's knowing exactly. You have to get used to these, and so they're fairly in line.
Yes, it should be.
But it's knowing, am I high? Am I low? Am I high? Yeah, where that position is, and I've always told guys that you can feel it when you're off.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna feel soft. Like there's not as much contact there. Got the little ones tuning in too. Good. Nice, Josh. Josh, just don't worry about back here. Because what's happening, see those little divots that you're putting in? So just concentrate on this very tip. And then we'll worry about later on. Okay. Now, both of you are going to notice we're getting this what I call fish lipping at the very end. Some of that, don't worry too much about it. We're going to end up grinding that away. No, what I was addressing was right here at the very tip. So flip it down. See how it's kind of creating this, but we'll end up cleaning up that tip later on. Right here, though, what this is telling me, see how we have this high point and then we've got a valley in here? You're not hitting enough on the flat, whereas you're hitting much more this direction on this narrow side. So I need you to work. No, I need you to turn it flat and hammer here because that is thicker than, see that valley right there? So, right, we want to get that out. We want that all to be completely flat. What I was just saying to Bill was I think it's really kind of cool that it's not just that the entire world can watch, our classes going on, but also the fact that, their loved ones, family, whatever at home, they can go ahead and watch and tune in. And so it's just kind of cool to be able to broadcast this. Looking good, Josh. Heat it up? Yeah. I don't care about it straightening out right now. I'm still concerned about this cupping going on in there. We need to smooth all these high points out. So this edge is high, that edge is high, and the middle is sort of like a valley. We just want to smooth all that out. Yep. Yeah, let me, I'm going to switch you over to a slightly different hammer. And the only reason is it's a flat face. Okay. And so you're going to just be hitting it like this. Okay. Okay? So. Let me put it back in there. Josh, I'm gonna let you use this hammer. Now, this was my very first blacksmithing hammer. Okay? So, as I always tell everyone else, don't fuck it up.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure whatsoever. But that being said, it needs to be re-wedged, and I don't have a wedge here. I probably do somewhere in one of those mouse holes, but God only knows where. The reason I'm telling you that is this head is going to start lifting off. Just take it like that, tap it, and you'll watch it go back down. But just be mindful of it as you're using it. But that square face should help you out a lot.
Thank
you. The first half an hour of forging in class, I really just kind of, it's not that I enjoy watching you guys flounder around, but I really think that one of the best teachers is your own observation. And my body moves differently than your body. And so for me to show you exactly how I do it is one thing, but for you to understand what we're trying to accomplish and then figuring out how those accomplishments are able to happen, through your own movement, I think works a lot better. Well, you're swinging a little too hard along that edge. Just concentrate, flip it down. Concentrate on this side. I don't know, Tracy. They're making it very hot in here, so I gotta do my best to keep cool. Which means I'm gonna stand on the sidelines here drinking a Miller Lite. Yeah. Again, I'm being responsible. I'm not drinking beer right now. I'm just drinking Miller Lite. So. This is how I maintain my dad bod. It is. It's very important. Good. Lighter hits. So now it's sort of like planishing. It's all about smoothing. But you've recovered from that a lot. So on your next heat, come in and we're just gonna light and just kind of do the exact same thing that you just did on the flat side and smooth this out. See how it's all jagged right now? So we want that to be a nice, we want it to taper in to that point. Well, the whole point of, yeah, I guess when I do videos and stuff, I get guys that, come in for class after they watch like YouTube videos from here at the shop, and they're like, well, yeah, but you make it look so easy. What's really cool about this is that, you're actually seeing real world people doing it for the first time right here. But I still think it's something. It's a goal that's it's within anyone's reach. I've had students that were 3'9" and 65 pounds, and then I've had the giant guy. Like, size doesn't matter. What matters is your willingness to reach for that goal, and how much work you're willing to put into it, and your commitment to get there. So. Good. So Josh, see how he's just going through at the spine there that he has is rather kind of jagged looking. And so he's just coming in and doing some very light hits to planish that out. Good. So flip it down. See that point right there? That's where you need to address next, or your next heat. Yep. Just smooth it out. Yep.
Just smooth it out.
Yeah. It's not going to take much to get to where we want it. So Josh, what do you think of that different hammer?
I like it. It's just, I don't know what it is, but it just feels more responsive.
It has a little bit more mass. It's only about 100 grams more, so it's 2.2 pounds. For those of you that speak metric. That's a 1,000-gram hammer, whereas the first hammer that he started out with was 900 grams. And then, again, make sure, see how it's riding off just a little bit? Just give it a tap. Yeah, it doesn't take much. But I'll tell you, I did that once at a demonstration where I was at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair demonstrating, and I'm hammering and hammering and hammering and go like this, and all of a sudden the hammerhead, like I'm brought it down, and I'm like, well, that's a lot lighter than it should be. Hammerhead ended up flying out over my shoulder. It's not that I don't want to start you guys out. Like, I use a 2.5 pound hammer. That's my most comfortable hammer. I don't want to start you guys out really, really heavy. Not that 2.5 pounds is really heavy, but I don't want to start you out at that weight because I'd rather you ease into it. Find what feels comfortable for you. Good. I would still choke up. Keep in mind, Bill, that it's not about putting a lot of power behind it. It's about putting a lot of control behind it. We're not taking a large piece of steel and trying to taper it down. We're taking a relatively thin piece of steel and we're trying to make a delicate tool out of it. So yeah. So right here at that tip, let's go ahead, bring your heat back up. I do have to say, Bill, over the last time that you saw the live stream, I brought the tech stuff a lot bigger.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I can actually see it now.
Yeah.
I was worried I'd have to, break out the reading glasses in order to read the screen.
I started having to wear reading glasses about 5 years ago. Like to see anything, I used to have to take my daughter into the store to read the price tags to me.
No.
That was the end. I had to start. You know what I mean?
So, as far as price tags go, and what's on the shelf of the grocery store, if you're the shelf that I'm looking at, I step on this side of the aisle, and I'm like, and everyone, I get people looking at me weird all the time, and I'm like, no, I have to stand back here so I can actually read what's over there. Like, but I'm nearsighted. I wear contacts, so like, yeah, it's so weird. But nothing's clear until it's further away. The other annoying reading thing, Bill, is when catch me if you've done this one before, but in order to read something that has like slightly fine print on it, say in the middle of the night, you have to turn like all the lights on, like super bright. Just yeah. I had to change a fuse in my truck yesterday, and it was broad daylight, and I still needed a flashlight in order to read the fine print on. Getting old sucks. Good catch here, Josh. Looking good. Turn it flat. Nice. So don't worry about this very end right here. That's all going to be sacrificed. Okay. I've already planned and accounted for that. But it seems like you're moving the steel a lot better. Looks like you're finding your groove. No, heat it up again. We want to bring it a little sharper yet. I'll show you an interesting trick. During the wintertime, it is absolutely wonderful in here. That's when I get creative and do like shepherd's pie on the. I'll put it on the coal stove over there. So I'll start cooking at like 8 o'clock in the morning. By the time we're ready to have lunch at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, everything's nice and cooked. And then instead of sending students away, because you never know what the weather's going to be like, so it's good enough just to, I'm happy enough to get people here safely and have them return safely. Why send them off for lunch, when I can just as easily throw something on the stove and cook. Summertime, though, I don't want to be standing over a hot stove. It's bad enough that I have to stand next to a hot stove. So here's what I was talking about. Let's take a look. Right here, see how I'm going to come right up to the edge. And so my hammer's not hitting completely on the anvil. I'm hitting sort of half on, half off. And I'm just pulling that tip down. Otherwise, but I didn't do much. A 1/16 of an inch of steel, and all of a sudden it changes a lot. Oh yeah. It doesn't take much to move steel. It's moving it correctly. And what I was saying to Joshua earlier is that it's much more important for you to observe how the metal moves for you, because your body moves differently than mine does. I've had different injuries in the past than you've had. My arm doesn't like to raise above this point. Whatever, different, we're all built differently. And so while I could show you how I do something, that really doesn't tell you how or instill upon you how you can accomplish it.
Showing me is how to fix
what I
am messing up,
and
by not knowing how
I think there's a lot of guys who want to start this out as a hobby, and one of the things that I see a lot is people getting upset that their overall finished piece doesn't look as great as they imagined it was going to. And I think one simple thing is to learn that if you just step back and think about it, there's some ways that we can actually correct big major issues that aren't really big major issues with just a little bit of forethought before going into the next step. And I mean, as my goal is, because I want you to come back, but I want other people to see this, and I want them to come here as well. So I want you to have the best looking thing possible. But at the same time, I don't ever want to get into a situation where I'm taking authorship away from you. So there's a certain authenticity that goes with it. Now, that being said, I have had guys say, "Hey, can you finish that for me?" Yeah. Josh, is that getting a little hot for you? I would probably do yourself a favor and not grab the hot ends. Just, I'm no expert, but that end that's smoking right there, I probably wouldn't get my hand anywhere near that. Oh, that's looking really good. Let me see it straight on. Just a little thick. I'd like to see you address this spine. Yeah. Oh, Josh, that's moving great. Good. Turn it flat. Now you're finding your rhythm. Look at you. You barely even missed a beat. You guys are getting it, so that's a good thing. Everyone has to have. You can't run a marathon for somebody, just like you can't teach them how to walk either. Everyone figures it out eventually on their own. How long does it take? Some kids start walking in a year. Other kids, well, I have some friends that if you watch them leave a bar, you'd argue that they probably still don't know how to walk. And they're 40 years old. I was just going to tell you, choke up a little bit on that hammer. Also, make sure, right now, you're pitched a little forward, okay? Bring your hammer over. When I say you're pitched a little forward, what I mean is you're pitched like this. And I want you to be a little bit flatter there. Because this is that side where we're trying to smooth everything out. It doesn't help us. Like when we go to do our bevel later on, pitching forward a little bit, that's a good thing. But on this, where we just want everything nice and smooth and uniform, it's all the spatial awareness. You almost have to become one with the hammerhead as well. You need to know what the shape of that is. And every hammer that you use, you're gonna there's some slight adjustment, some learning. Good. And right about that color right there, that's when I go ahead, put it back in. There comes a certain point where you have to understand like where the metal's moving when it's not moving, because one's obviously moving the metal, the other is expending energy without accomplishing any work. And I found that if you get that rhythm down, that the better you get at that, essentially, the shorter time it takes between, to get everything done in general, because you're saying, okay, at this kind of dull orange color, I'm going back into the heat. Well, it's going to heat up faster. And so essentially, you're just kind of keeping that piece hot, and you're taking a lot more breaks and working in short intervals. So you're not wearing yourself down as much, but yet it seems like things are getting done a lot faster. Yep.
So give up that extra 1 round.
When you think that you should stop hitting in 2 or 3 hits, you probably should have stopped hitting 4 or 5 hits before that. That's looking good. So on your next heat, Bill, I want you to just straighten everything out. Something else that you can do, grab this brush that piece off before you put it back. You just showed me exactly why I have holes in all my t-shirts, right around my belly level. Yep, right there. Because that is the most efficient way to use that. It gets a lot of stuff off. But especially when it's really hot, man, those pieces of scale are just flying off, hitting your belly. Again, in the wintertime, not so bad. During the summertime, it kind of sucks when you set yourself on fire. My son can't keep a pair of boots alive.
Yeah. We used to make leather before they came. We used to make leather thinking people wear them. That's why we wear cool boots now.
Yeah.
You just keep laces out, right? Pair of boots.
Yeah, I told him that he needs to get a pair of lineman's boots.
Yeah, lineman's boots have the same thing.
Yeah, they're built into it.
Yeah, when I used to wear climb poles, meet the linemen, they have that little cradle. But they do make them. They do make them, but they're all wrong.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Lineman's boots are really uncomfortable. And I mean, you can climb a pole with them, but they're still not. They're not super flexible. Right. I apologize that there's a 5-minute delay. I am a blacksmith, not a tech guy, so I do the best that I can. Oh, but wait, is that Leah? No, but she said compared to Leah's phone, that her phone has a 5-minute delay. Well, that's not my fault. I would tell your husband to get you a better cell phone plan. Tracy, you just have the instant replay phone, that's all. Or not so instant replay. The 300-second later delay. Oh, that's looking good. So, what I want you to do, I want you to go ahead and lay it on the anvil, and I want you to grab it from the pointed end. And I want you to go in handle end first now. Yeah, those last two heats, though, just watching you move, I can see the difference in you moving that steel. Looks good. That comes in time. But you're accomplishing the harder part of the work. You can always go over here and sand it smooth. Although that does take a lot more time. It is nicer if you forge it almost as close to what you want the finished piece to be. Did you see that Tracy is yelling at you about her phone? She says it's not us. It's not my end of the side.
She actually did an update to screw things up.
That's why my even heat oven just pushed an update this morning.
Yeah.
And
it's a little scary to do.
I didn't do it before class. Because I'm like, we still need to make sure that everything works as it's supposed to. If I I'll do it on Sunday when I don't have any class going on. I'll push that update, and that way I can email them Sunday night, and by Monday afternoon have a solution presented just in case. Nice. Go a little lighter. Good. Stop. I want you to hit right in here. Okay. So what I want you to do, we're going to take this, and it's the long flat side now. We're going to come in, and we're going to divide out the material that's going to become our handle. So about here. So I just put a notch in. I only put that notch in. I could have taken it all the way, but I just wanted to put a notch in there. I don't want to take away from your fun, your experience of this. You know, no other place in the world could you say working over a hot forge and like doing like real good physical labor is fun. But the reason I put that notch in there is so that you'll be able to find it when it's glowing really hot. You're still going to be able to feel where that notch is. And then you saw how I came in and I did this. So my hammer is actually landing almost what I call half on, half off. So it's half on, half off, and boom, we're hitting. And we're just driving that. We want that angle of the hammer face and this angle of the spine. We want them to match up. And then we're just going to drive that in. What we're looking for is about 3/8 of an inch in. It's really just there to show you, like, hey, this is all handle material here. This is all blade. Look at the size of that blade, and that's before we actually stretch it out. So that's looking really good. So what you're watching right now is actually us on Twitch. So you're seeing what the internet delay is before other people watch it. This is why you don't upgrade to the best. It's both. Tracy's actually watching on YouTube. Yeah.
My family on YouTube because I didn't know nothing about Twitch.
Yeah. Well, Twitch is primarily, it's mainly a video game service. However, what's really nice is they're starting to put a push towards crafting and stuff like that. Other things. So it's essentially, getting in at the ground floor of something that's no longer ground floor. But everybody and their brother and sister streaming their video games. That's looking really good. On your next heat, turn it flat again. So I want you to address this edge right here. But turn it up, and it literally just like light blows, kind of like this.
Just on this edge, right?
Yeah, we just want to smooth this out. So that's where I want you to work that. But be careful. Be mindful that the face of the hammer follows the contour. We're not trying to put any more divots in there.
So just flying on the very edge of where I'm working.
Yep.
And just move it down a little bit.
Exactly. I guess eventually I just need to get a whole bunch of these wireless lavalier mics. That way they're not just hearing what I'm talking about. Right. That's the next step. The next time there's an extra like $600 laying around, I'll do that. Well, because it's not just, I only have one audio input into the back of the PC. So instead, I need to go into a mixer board, and then I need a USB mixing board. So that'd be, you know, $240. The mics are cheap, you know, they're $50 a piece, which is good because if you want people just wearing them that have never worn them before, if they break it, it's only $50. Yeah, it sucks, but at the same time, it's not like a Sennheiser or Sennheiser that's a $900 version of what I'm using right now. Which I have friends that have them, and I've worn them while doing videos here in the Forge. But it's not something I'd give to someone who's a virtual stranger. Nice. Good job. Just a little bit more smoothing out there, Josh. It's the other thing, stay hydrated. Good. Josh, get a little bit of a tighter grip on that if you would. That is looking fine. Go a little bit more, just dress it up a little bit. When I say get a tighter grip on it, Josh, what I mean is choke up a little bit with those tongs. You're just kind of grabbing the very edge of the material there. I think if you don't, it's just going to kind of flop around on you. Yeah. All right, Bill is setting the shop on fire. It's all right. Look at all the burn holes on the floor there. And those weren't from you. These guys are far too polite with each other. I said you guys are far too polite with each other. So what I want you to do next, Bill. We'll wait until Josh is out of the forge. Let's just double check this. Still a little cold. We're actually going to turn it around. I don't want to waste the heat if I don't have to. That's our action that we're going to be doing when we're actually drawing this handle out. But that's one step away yet. Okay? But it will be pretty much our final step. But what I did was, if you noticed, you were getting a little bit of a divot in there, so that took care of that. On your next heat, though, this is where we really, where we make a knife, and or where we make a knife-shaped object. Leah says hi, and she's on Twitch. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it tells you where they're actually watching from. So what we're going to be doing is I want you to come in, and here I kind of choke up on my hammer. Josh, you'll want to pay attention to this as well. So now obviously you're left-handed, so you do everything backwards. Okay? But we're going to come in, and I want my hammer at a slight angle. Meanwhile, my piece is just maybe, I don't know, 2 degrees or so elevated in the back. But that edge, or what's going to be the edge, is still resting against that material of the anvil. And we're just going to come in, and we're going to hit here. Now, I don't want my hammer moving all around. What I want is I want my hammer to always hit the same space. And notice how I'm pulling out with my tong hands. And then I go back in. Right. Well, what that's going to do is that's going to start pulling down a bevel. Now, I was doing this cold. However, if I flip it over, wow, if you look, we're already starting to see that bevel on the other side as well. So what we're trying to do is thin this material here, and that's it has nowhere else to go. So when we thin it, it's going to stretch forward, and that's going to lift that whole tip up. Yep. Looking really good, Josh. I like that. So before we get too cold, finish out what you were doing. Nice. Okay, before we get too cold, let's leave this on the anvil. I'm going to take the tongs from you. So our next action for you is we need to figure out what's blade and what's handle. So I'll divide this out for you. Looking at it, I think right about here. Well, that's an awful lot of material that you can stretch out. You can make that into a 6-inch handle if you really want to take it thin. There's a lot of material in that, probably 2.5 inches or so. But what I'm doing is, I just want to re-emphasize that. Just a hair. I want you to be able to find this while it's hot, because when it's glowing, you're not going to be able to see all the definition that's there. And you're going to come in, and again, I want your hammer to land half on the anvil, half off the anvil. And I want the angle of this hammer to match the angle of the piece that you're hitting. Right, because where we're trying to put all the force is here, not here and not here. Right here is where we want all the force. There you go. So heat it up. Stop. Flip it over. You were doing the wrong side. It's all right. I caught you before it was too much. No. Go back over. Turn your left shoulder towards me. Okay. Well, get a good hold on those. Okay. Nope. Flip it over. I'm gonna pretend like you're one of those Gumby dolls with the wires in them. Yep. I'm just gonna pose you how I want you. There you go. And so you'll start here and work. Well, technically you're gonna pull out here. You don't need to lean it too much, but your hammer is gonna strike along there. I want the hammer to always hit in the same spot. No.
Oh, the hammer's always hit the same spot. I'm moving the material.
Exactly. There you go. I mean, if you do this right, this is the true learning curve, because you're going to pull a curve into your blade from a straight line.
Yeah, that's what I meant by hitting it in the same spot.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
That is another way to do it. I still prefer coming to the opposite side of the anvil and swinging that hammer towards me. But I would not do it on this anvil on this side. That anvil over there has two sharp sides. This one has. Its previous life was in the Philadelphia Naval Yards. So. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yep. Here, let me move this for you. Yeah, just like that. Well, although technically like that. Yes. But along those lines. Congratulations, Bill. You're doing it how I want you to do it. Although you're still moving that hammer.
It's hard to, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I want you to move the material, not the hammer. Yeah. Well, think about it this way. If you do this for 10 years and you wear out a section of your anvil, you always have another section of the anvil to move to. But if you keep on moving your hammer all around the anvil, you're going to wear out the anvil all the same. Right. No, the way that my anvil stays smooth is my son, whenever he did something wrong prior to graduating high school, I haven't been able to do this since he's been a man, you know. But prior to graduating high school, every time that my son did something that pissed me off, his job was to come down here with a hard disc and a flap wheel and polish the anvils. And then it actually got to the point where I knew that he screwed up, that he did something wrong that I was going to find out about later. Because I'd walk into the shop and I'd have like mirror polished anvils, or I'd walk in and he'd be in here doing it anyway. Like, why are you doing that? Oh, I just felt like being nice, Dad. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. There's a story behind that. What am I about to find out about? It's obviously bad enough that I'm telling you to come down and polish anvils. Or it's a preemptive strike. Right. Yeah, but punishments are not coupons. You can't just like do a whole bunch of chores that you never wanted to do in the first place and expect that to, like, you can't rip off the coupon and say, well, here, that one's good for that. That's fine. That's fine. We'll work around that. One more heat. One more heat, and then we're going to switch over to the blade on you. Hey, Jeff. How you doing? We've actually got another one of our YouTube guys actually in the shop today. Of course, you can't see me because I'm off on the side. But I think, oh yeah, I'm watching this on a delay. So stop paying attention to the damn screen, Jay. Yeah, but if we lived our lives according to this, we'd be all screwed up. Yeah. So now we got Bill Jacobs here from previous YouTube live streams. joining us for class, and Josh. Both of these guys are doing a great job. Good. Okay. Josh, that looks great. Stop right there. Stop while you're ahead. So the next thing to do, see how we have this curve going on here. Let's just straighten it out. Before we actually pull that bevel down, I can kind of use the same tactic just to straighten that out a little bit. Now, obviously, we can change this, even more. But what I want you to do next, the more important thing, is we need to get that blade bevel done. So that's when I want you to show me how you're going to line up. Okay. So far, so good. Bring your right shoulder in, left shoulder this way, head away from the stuff. There you go. So, and just like this, and you're going to just hammer here and pull out with your left hand as you do that. That is simply the action, but not that much of an angle. There you go. So if our ultimate goal on the angle is that we're trying to hit 24 degrees, that means that one side needs to be 12. Or, I guess, yes, you're right. One side could be 2 degrees and the other side could be 22 degrees. You are absolutely correct. But 12 and 12 also makes that right. Because we're actually talking 12 degrees or 24 degrees relative to the opposite side. We're not talking 24 degrees relative to the anvil. The anvil has absolutely nothing to do with you cutting something with it later. Yeah. It's going to start lifting up the tip, isn't it? Again, for those of you tuning in live on Twitch and YouTube, this is actually a class that I'm running here in the shop. It's a 2-day class. I figured I'd live stream for the forging portion of it, and depending on how good of students they are, tomorrow while they're doing all their hand sanding and what have you, maybe I'll go live and do a little forging on my own. Then we can also show you the finished results of these here on YouTube. Of course, you can also follow my Instagram, Underhill Forge. Time to have tennis. My idea of tennis is having margaritas, sitting on the sidelines watching someone else play tennis, because I really don't understand that game. Good. Heat it up. Do it again. That's starting to look great, Bill. Yep. Drop your angle. What I mean by that is right now you're pitched like that.
Yep. Oh, drop it. Okay.
Drop it almost flat.
Okay.
I mean, the way that I see it's always got to be adjusted for who's doing the action, and I think you're pitched too high. If you look, I can really tell that you're left-handed. If you just did that bevel looks great, but I don't see the same thing on that side. Right.
What does that mean?
that means
I'm
that
all messed up.
no, it means that your angle's too high.
Oh, the angle's okay.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, now if you're like most left-handed people that piss us off here in the studio, well, this is why left-handed people piss us off. What happens is, I'll do something and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm left-handed." Okay, well, hold on a second. Let me readjust in my mind. And I attempt to do it left-handed. And then as I struggle and I go through this 5 minutes of like bullshit of floundering around like a fish out of water, then it never fails. That left-handed person looks at me and goes, "Well, if you really need me to, I can do it right-handed." And the reason it pisses us off is because no right-handed person has ever said, "Well, if I really need to, I'll just do that left-handed," and actually been good at it. And then you fucking left-handed people, I swear to God, here it is like, you're pot committed now. To use a poker term, you are pot committed. Damn ambidextrous bastards. Demon spawn. It's the only way. Like, you realize that you would have been burned at the stake back in the 1600s, right? That is, if the general public could write. So are you starting to see a bevel come out on that? Trust me. So a little less of an angle. There you go, right about there. Bring that hammer just a hair. Just bring the hammer over just a hair. There you go. You were riding off the side of the anvil towards you. It's not that that's a horrible thing, but it can put divots in the other side. Well, it's better to eradicate them and erase them when you can before they become a major issue. Because let me tell you, trying to correct them on a grinder really sucks. It takes a lot of time. It is, and I think a lot of guys trying to correct, or they don't think about correcting their mistakes. They see other people do this on YouTube or on TV, and they expect that, well, they should be able to do that with a close skill level. Like, it doesn't look that hard. There's not much going on there, but there's about 10 to 12 different variables that you have to pay attention to. Right.
You drive a nail. You hit the nail.
It's rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're doing. That's what you're having to learn how to do.
Looking good. You're pulling that out really nicely. Yes, Jeff, it is the lowest humidity of the entire summer. So, yeah, it's actually not that humid out right now. unlike last week it was like 91% humidity here. I mean, your clothes were just damp. Like, standing next to the forge was the only thing you could do to actually dry them off. That I don't care about so much. What I care about is put it down. I'm looking at your consistency, and I really like the thickness of your blade.
Is it coming right?
Yeah. A little bit more emphasis from here to here. Everything else, the tip-wise, I think is fine. I see something. I'm going to do a correction for you guys with the power hammer, and that is I'm going to just draw some of that material down to make it distal taper a little bit for you and to smooth it out. But you're going to have to do some corrections by hand to that.
So just working this area.
Mm-hmm. Just back and forth right in there. So, Jeff, you've listened to other live streams from here in the shop. While I don't have the main camera up today, how are the volume levels? We're trying a new microphone today, a wireless lavalier mic. And I realize it's going to take a few seconds or a minute or so for you to actually reply, but just wondering how it actually sounds on your end. I know you can't hear these guys. I don't have them mic'd up. But that's an investment for the future if I continue to stream classes live. It's cool how you can actually see the steel cooling down where you're hammering, and then you're moving on. You're actually doing a great job at your timing and pacing. So flip it up. Let's see how you're doing. Nope, other direction. I want to see. Yeah, doesn't your wrist bend like that? Okay, so I want you to take that down another, basically half that thickness again. But I'm going to switch hammers on you. I'm going to pull my favorite bad boy out of the arsenal. This is a dog's head hammer, a Japanese, bladesmith's hammer. And what's different about this?
All the weights in the head.
All the weights in the head. It's putting all that force, but most of your movement is, just watch really quick. So your movement, I keep my elbow locked, and most of it is, see how
It's just you sort of rocking.
I'm just sort of, it's all in the wrist. And I'm hitting an angle the whole time that I'm doing that. So I'm just finding what area I need to be, and then there you go.
A Chinese design.
It's a Japanese design. Yep. One of these days I'm going to make a run of these hammers. Ah, cool, Jeff. Thank you very much. I was hoping to get somebody in that has watched previous live streams. What's cool about it is, especially after you've exhausted yourself, doing one repetitive action over and over again, switching up hammers can be great. Yeah. Yeah. No. Choke back. It is a right-handed hammer. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Yes. It literally wants to do all the work for you. As long as you're just the idiot in control, and as long as you don't go overboard with it, yeah. There's a lot of physics that goes into that style of hammer, and I can't preach their praises enough, but I don't, like I said, I'm the only guy that I know that makes them. Yeah. I guess I should do a run of them. What do you think of the action on that? Yeah. So, Bill, go ahead, heat your piece back up. Let's get off sync here. That way, both you guys aren't coming out of the forge at the same time. Because I want Bill to be able to try that hammer out as well. Yeah, your piece should like heat up very, very quickly. So. Yeah, Jeff, I know that things go blurry, but these cameras are actually running off of internet protocol. So they're actually live streaming through my router into the PC. They're not hardwired into the PC. So that's why they're kind of out of sync to one another, and also focus is weird and everything else. One of these days, I swear, I'll get some hardwired cameras. It just feels like a very solid hit. Yeah. It's using a totally different muscle group. And what I like about switching up hammers, especially by using this hammer for my bevel, is the fact that I'm not fatiguing myself in the same way. You know, fatigue comes in, overuse is one way of fatigue, but also repetitive use causes fatigue as well. And so I think by changing it up, by changing up what muscle groups are being used, it also allows me to keep on working longer.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I see a slight twist in there. However, what I want you to do is I want you to heat that up. I'm going to run that under the power hammer. Okay? Well, let's see what the twist looks like after I run it under the power hammer, because to go ahead and straighten that right now is not necessarily the best course of action. Well, A, you're left-handed, so you just do things naturally wrong, as God never intended, as some people would say. I know plenty of nuns that would agree with me on that. They'd hit you with a ruler. But no, what happens is you're twisting your hand ever so slightly in relation to the surface of the anvil. Your hammer's hitting at a different pitch. And so there's this twisting variable right here, this back and forth. One hand is moving one way, one hand's moving the other, and they're not moving in a syncretic, movement towards one another. Yeah, they're just not, yeah. I still twist stuff all the time, especially when I'm doing the live streaming, because I'm talking the whole time. I'm not always paying attention. I'm more like, I don't want dead air. I don't want, I don't have anything in. I can't hear people. So I'm still talking to myself out here and hoping to God that somebody's, writing up there. Like, please tell me that you're there. This would be really nice. Yeah, Jeff, most of my handles have some sort of index point in them. Oh, yeah. Just concentrate more right in there. Hold on, let me take a look. So that's a nice heat. If you want to meet me over at the power hammer, stand off on the right side of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to the flat portions of the dies. I'm going to start right about here. So I was just trying to get that nice slight distal taper. going all the way down your blade. And now you can worry about trying to straighten this out. So to do that, I have to think right-handed. No, not so much. And Josh, actually, you might want to pay attention to this as well. So see how we have, it's really nice and straight from here to here. From here to here, also nice and straight. But it pitches up a little bit or out that way. So what we want to do is we want to take the high point of that curve, and instead of trying to hit here and here to bring everything down to it, we just want to hit the highest point of that curve. I just tap and look. Tap and look. I don't want to hit multiple times because I don't want to overcorrect it. So I'm constantly tapping, looking, tapping, looking, tapping, looking, tapping, looking. Right. But so far, I mean, I still see a slight hook in there. I'm not going to worry about it too much because now I want you to do the handle portion of the blade, and we're still going to have to straighten everything out after the fact. So let me give you this, and I want you to lay it down on the anvil and then flip it around. So, yep. And now you're going to grab it blade first, and you're going to go in handle first into the heat. So when we come out, you're going to come down and we're going to be hitting. So again, this is where I really want that hammer hitting in the center of mass on that anvil. And we're just going to start here. The idea is we're forging out the tang. We want, again, just like when we cut it out, we want to go bigger than what we envision the final piece to be. Because it's so much easier to grind down to correct instead of trying to forge that to shape. I'm not saying that you can't. I do it all the time, but it requires a little bit more experience, I think, in order for you to get something that looks really nice right away. Yeah. That seems like it's really lifting up for you. Okay. Good. Now do a nice light pass all the way out. That looks good. Look how wide that is. Like, I think you've managed to pull that out to over another, it looks like it's over 1.5 inches. And we started with 1.25 inches. So you've at least got, I'd say, almost 3/8 of an inch extra in width out of that blade. That looks good. And that's how you can compromise, the length of the blade. You can make it, you can actually make a blade that's only, say, 3.5 inches long out of that 7-inch piece of steel, but it's going to end up being 2.25 inches wide if you take the time to do it. So you got to think about, it's all relative. It's all about what mass is there and where you're moving it to. Just like, and you can actually figure that out, or what is possible, by using something like silly putty. And so if you have a pasta roller or something like that, roll it through at the thickness of your steel, and then cut it down to the actual size of the bar, and then essentially use your finger, and you can plan the whole forging process out by using silly putty. Oh, what's really great is you don't hear the forge, huh? Yeah, well, I've actually figured it out. I can, at least according to the levels, the microphone that I'm using is really only right here at my throat. So I can turn the grinder on, I can run the power hammer, and I'm just showing a slight spike in levels, but it doesn't seem like it's loud, at least not by watching the levels going up and down on the screen. So I could be totally wrong. I guess I'll figure it out when I watch the playback. Nice. Good. So now flip it up. No. Edge up. Edge up. Okay. I like that. So now you just need to just go over this section on your next seat. Yep. Don't hit back here anymore. Well, I want you to concentrate where we're setting it down first. I want you to try to move that material, and then essentially I try to do it in sections. So as I move material away from the division between blade and tang, then I move back a little bit, and then I'll move back to the final area. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Good. I would stop right there. This little tip, see how that crack is going up? So all that tip is just gone. Imagine that being cut off right there. That shape. Yeah, exactly. And you know that we can just grind that in. So let me run that under the power hammer for you. I don't do too much blade forging under the power hammer. It's way too easy to screw something up. I make Damascus under the power hammer, but I don't like forging out blades. I just use it as a correction tool, and that's about it. I like pulling my distal tapers out. That means I don't have to do them by hand with a hammer. And I'm not sure. So Jeff, our starting stock on that was 3/16 inch, 1084, 1 1/4 inches wide by 7 inches long. And it looks like both these guys are going to end up having knives that at least hit 9.5 inches, possibly 10 inches on these pieces. So. Well, there's a certain amount of experience that comes into calculating out what the. Trust me, when I was first starting out, there were a lot of times where I grossly underestimated steel and also grossly overestimated steel. Yeah, like just because the difference between bladesmithing and stock removal is the fact that I think bladesmiths, we're cheap bastards when it comes to our material, but we don't mind spending whatever the hell we do on fuel. We just don't like seeing shit laying on the shop room floor that is trimmed off. Whereas knife makers are like, I'll take a 30-inch piece of steel and I'll go ahead and make that into a 28-inch machete. No, I would much rather take a 12-inch piece of steel and forge it down to a machete, but that's it. Here, I'll do that for you. Maybe. I mean, seriously?
Playing hard to get.
Yeah. So I'm going to address all these curves here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm using the flat side of the power hammer. What's that?
That was 4 strikes, and it was almost straight at that
Yeah.
point.
So when you know how to use it as an appropriate tool, it's really, really handy. But I don't think that it's something that everybody needs in their shop. I use it because I have it. There is an old-fashioned way of doing this. You know, it's called swinging a hammer. The only difference is that hammer there is over 50 pounds, whereas you can't swing a 50-pound hammer with precision and control. So, but what I want you to do is I want you to come out here now and let's concentrate on forging that handle out. Boy, Jeff, these guys are really making the shop kind of hot in here. I don't care how dry you say it is. It's thank God I have some canned water. I'm actually really glad that you can't hear the forge. That's always been the trick of doing this live. Is in post-production when I'm doing something that I'm editing down in Final Cut, you know, I can adjust those sound levels in post-production, or especially if I record them separately, so much easier. But when you're trying to mix this live, and I don't have a monitor. It's not like I'm singing a concert and I can actually hear what it sounds like. You know, I'm just kind of tuning in a little bit and hearing everything on the same delay that you guys are hearing it. But this mic does sound pretty darn clear to me. Obviously, I can hear everybody else talking in the background, but if it was just me in here doing a live stream, I think that'd be absolutely perfect. Please, Jeff, yes, help me out with the heat, brother. Drink a beer with me. I mean, I realize we're not doing it in person, but, you know, that's the whole point of the whole coronavirus is that we have to be together apart. So every time a can gets popped, an angel gets its wings. I'm waiting for some beer company to go ahead and make that into a Christmas commercial. Oh, that's right. You can't have beer commercials, can you? Unless they're just like Corona. Well, like Corona and Budweiser, I think, are the only two companies I've seen with beer commercials lately. And let's face it, Corona is just they're playing up off the whole look, we're in the news. Okay, it's not actually us, but made you look. Yeah, I don't know how much that's going to help him with the portion that he's doing. But Bill, let me show you a cool little trick. This is actually what I like to call hammering like a girl. And this is not an insult to girls. This is because women work smarter and not harder here at the forge. So I'm going to come in at an angle. And now, as I work my way out here, I'm just raising my angle. And look how I just separated all that. And now I can come back doing it the way that you were doing it. But I wouldn't do that move that I just did.
Right.
I would work on thinning that down and just drawing it out. You know, right now we're almost like we can only steal half an inch from here if we need to.
So now if I keep hitting it,
Like, I don't think you want to come in too much. I don't want that to go too much more narrow.
work my way out in here.
Yeah. But I would thin down, if you flip it up, thin down the stock. Okay. One of these weeks, Jeff, and to all the rest of you playing along at home, I think we're gonna have to do a drinking game. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna take some of my other YouTube videos, and I'm gonna go ahead and green screen myself out. We're gonna play the YouTube video, and I'll be down in the corner. And every time that I say something that I think is idiotic because I said it 5 years ago, then we all take a drink. So, like, we're going to go back and watch my old videos, and every time I'm critical of myself, take a drink. Yeah. I will admit there's certain videos that will stay pretty sober, but there's a couple that, boy, I hope your liver's got a clean bill of health. Nice. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but they're starting to actually look like knives.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I mean, they definitely look more knife-like than that bar of steel I gave you to start out with. Yes, Jeff, I will give you a heads up. You can go ahead and get half. Get a nice handle on that. Now, I don't know if he's watching, but I might have to get Jeremy Eichelberger here live in the shop to help me with a task such as that. I just think it would be fun, and there's so many blacksmiths out there who take themselves way too seriously that, quite frankly, I don't know. I think it would be a blast critiquing my own mistakes of years ago, or just the things that annoy me. Hell, we could probably do that with a video from last week. I mean, you really like that hammer, don't you, Josh?
Works, man.
Don't forget to turn it flat. And can you see that you're actually raising, not on the flat side, but when you're up on the narrow, this hand is up a little high, which is why see how it goes flat and then angles up. Just something to be mindful of. It's nothing so detrimental that we can't fix it. So again, for those of you watching at home, this is a class here live at Underhill Forge. We've got Phil and we've got Josh here in the shop with us today. It's a wonderful, not so humid Thursday. What I really like about teaching classes is the fact that, boy, I really just sit back and observe, but I get to learn a lot of stuff as well. Really quick, I have a teaching moment. Bill, be careful. I don't want you to hit any more back here. Okay. I really look at the thickness of that material. Yeah. See how thick it is? Yeah. Turn it down this way. Look how wide it is. Yeah. I don't want that to change ever again. Okay. So really concentrate all your hits in between here and there. Well, we can straighten the rest of that out. But that's the area that we need to address. If you keep on hitting here, that's going to go paper thin, and that's not good. Not for what we're trying to do. There are guys that do some very tricky, knife making with reverse tapering from, But this is your first knife from start to finish in the forge. Let's keep it simple. Right. I'm not saying that we can't overcome those obstacles, but I'd rather not do a lot of your work tomorrow. Nice. So if you're starting to wonder, obviously, we need to take a little bit of material away from where that little divot is. But to give us a general overall look, I'm lining up the back of my fist here. I don't care about that. It's not that hot. And here. So that's about how long I want it, which basically means we want to try to get about another 3/4 of an inch out of there. I think we're gonna see how this kind of rounds out a little bit. I think we're gonna end up trimming some of that off, so that's going to give us what, 3/8 of an inch or so of material. So I'm not too worried about it, but I'd like to see you step this down and still keep your thickness equal to what it is now. So what I want you to do is come in here, lift it up, but I want your hammer to hit right here in the center of that anvil. And this is using that left hand again to move it in and out. So I want you to hit here and just kind of, and as you start moving out, go a little bit lighter on your hammering. So the idea is this is where the problem is, but we want to blend it out.
Okay, I see. Okay, so
we don't
100% there, 90%.
Yes, 80%, yeah, whatever, and so on and so forth. Well, Jeff, you know what they say, long and thin goes too far in and doesn't please a lady. Short and thick does the trick and brings up real good babies. So, Phil, if you can address right here, just be very careful. Move deeper onto the anvil. Okay, right, and then I want you to hit there, and that's about it. But I prefer you to get it hot before you bang it. Those drawings are not to scale. Kidding, they're way back behind the welder. I just kind of reached behind and just drew something. Nice. Turn it flat. Good. Back up. It does. So you did the method of controlling how hard you're hammering and just kind of feather it out. That's looking really good. I mean, I see a shape that can definitely be made out there, and look at the length of that handle. Why don't you heat that up, and I'll run it under the power hammer just to try to bring everything down to a consistent thickness, but you're still going to have to do the final shaping there. Now, Phil, we could go out on a limb here. Do you want to try to run it under the power hammer? All right. So the biggest thing with this, so put your foot on here. It's not on right now. So notice what this is doing. So this is controlling my tension. Yeah, I designed a power hammer that works differently than everybody else's. But it works. It actually works really well. So that's all it takes. But it works best if you step right here in the center of the ring. When you're off on the side, it doesn't put equal pressure on both sides. So go right here towards the center of the ring.
Now, on the flat die?
On the flat die. Don't you
No,
for knife making, you have no reason to ever use that.
That's just for drawing material out. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. Yep. As a matter of fact, if I was overly concerned, I have some flat dies right here made up.
Oh, to put the whole plate in.
And I could put the whole plate in. But it's so much of a pain in the ass to just move back and forth. No, I want you to work on the flat. Just the flat. That looks great.
Starting to get it.
I think you're there, dude.
Starting to get it. It's coming together.
Do you want to try some power hammer work?
Yeah.
So go. Okay. Yeah, I did not set this up left-handed.
You just want me to work the flat, right?
Yep. And you feel how you can feather that out and then back in. This is the same thing that I want you to try. Don't go all the way out to the tip because that's gonna. Right. Pull it out. Okay. On your next heat, I want you to choke a little further. Like I want this knife to be a little further out.
Yep. So I can work
Because I want
here.
you see right here. There's
Yep.
there's a little piece that's just kind of see that little thing that's just kind of dangling out there. I want that all.
I misloaded with the hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a misstrike, but that's fine. But otherwise, look how consistent that is. It looks really good. Now, tap on the foot pedal. Good. Okay, I said I set it up left-handed, but I'm goofy-footed, which means I ride a skateboard like a left-handed person. However, I do it right. So right foot, but my left arm is actually the control. So I run it like this. That's how I set it up to be run.
My father, I taught to shoot right-handed because guns back then, left-handed guns,
Oh yeah.
were expensive if you could even get them. So I was taught to shoot. You know what I mean? Now the school never tried to stop me from writing left-handed. Well, I could write with my right hand too because of people telling me to stop, writing my right hand.
I have a friend of mine that she's actually right-handed, but writes left-handed because when she was young, she broke her arm.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so when she was in like kindergarten, first grade, when that whole arm breaking thing happened, she learned her fundamental handwriting skills with her left hand. So yeah. I would try turning it on first. Josh, if you're looking for the instant replay, look, you're waving. That looks pretty good. Flip it all the way over. I want to see the spine. That looks very, very consistent. So move out of the way. Heat it back up. Now it's time to straighten it out with the hammer. Nope, it was already on. So you'll have to push a little harder to get it to start moving. Ease up. Go in. Good. Go a little deeper. And back down. And stop. So the only thing that I would correct on your usage of that is when I start, see how the dies aren't all the way together?
Yeah.
So I'm putting my piece in, and then I start moving. And then when I stop, I just take my foot off, pull my piece out. I don't want that last strike to happen. I don't want to pull it back out. What we're looking for is we want to get a nice, consistent look all the way through. So it's all about hitting that. Try doing it one more time. And then we also want to turn that off. What's that? Yes. Yeah, I think you're at a point where everything looks great. So there you want to come in diagonally. So I would straighten your spine first. So flip this up and tap here. The highest point of the curve is where you want to hit. Okay? Look down. Still got a little bit of a bend. That means look at the opposite side. Right there. Good. Stop. Look. See, now that looks pretty straight. Now we can try to straighten the rest of the handle out. And we'll flip it around and we'll straighten the rest of it out.
Okay, now straighten it out by hitting here or hitting. You want to hit the highest spot.
Okay. Put that in, and I'm going to show you over here. I will show you over here on my fancy electronic drawing board. I'm sorry the rest of you guys can't actually follow along at home. So let's just say your blade does that. So this is the anvil. So we have a contact point, a contact point. We want to hit the highest point of that curve. And we want to tap, look, tap, look, tap, look. We want to go back and forth. We don't want to try to do it all at once, because what's going to happen is this, eventually, these are going to straighten out into sort of an equilibrium. So
You want to stop there.
Yes.
Or else it'll make it work somewhere else or right there.
Exactly.
You're going to bend it the other way, really.
So it's all about working very, very cautiously on this.
All right, now the spine on the back is straight.
Uh-huh.
But when you look at it, it's twisted. Don't worry about that.
No, because we can go ahead and grind that. Again, think back to my analogy of we're stretching a canvas. You know where we're going to paint the picture. So thank you, Jeff. I built the hammer myself. I also designed it myself. Unlike most of the, tire hammers out there on the market. I really wanted it to be accessible to someone who's never used a power hammer before, because I want to use it in class. But it does hit with about 55, I think, pounds altogether. Build, it's looking really good. So, do me a favor, heat that up. What's that?
Doesn't fit towards where it used to. It's
No.
definitely not
You've definitely stretched that 7-inch bar. You've stretched this out really, really well. Oh, Phil, so I'm going to cheat for you. We're going to come over here. This is not actually on your cameras at home.
That was pretty quick.
Well, and if we do this in a nice fluid motion while we still have some heat, we should be able to take most of these bends and warps out of it. Let's go a little deeper on that. I mean, that's pretty darn close. How's the actual edge look? If there's a little bit of, I can live with that. Yeah, I can live with that. I can easily tell that you're left-handed. You have a very pronounced bias. Most people have a bias as to what hand they use. I would say 99% of guys, if you just show me a forged knife, I can tell you if they're right or left-handed. Why don't we let that cool down? Great. Now that I just said that whole like 99%, figuring out, what hand people are, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of like expert, world-class bladesmiths going, so what hand do I hammer with? Like, no, assholes, I'm not talking about you. Right.
It's stuff like that. But sometimes I see the comments, I'm like, some people are just stupid. What's an asshole? There really is.
Some people comment just to hear their voice being talked about or something. I don't know. They want that inner monologue going on. So, what do you think, Josh? How's that looking? Yeah. Do you like using the power hammer?
Honestly, you were lying. It's just there's something different about using. I mean, this is great and all, and it's fantastic.
Right, but in order to use this properly, you need to know how to use this well. I'm letting you guys just kind of mess around with it, but I'm not asking you to do anything crucial. I know guys who want to be bladesmiths, and they go out and they buy a power hammer, and it's the most ridiculous thing in the world because they never even learn how to swing a hammer the correct way by hand. And so what's that tool going to do? You're going to fuck up with a regular hammer. That's only going to fuck up harder and faster. That's the only difference. So until you learn how to actually use a hammer and get comfortable with it, and you're able to do whatever you need to with that hand hammer, the power hammer is sort of a luxury toy. Yeah. Turn it flat. Turn it flat, Josh. There you go. I really think, let me see that. I don't want you to go any tighter there because I know we've got to grind to clean this up. So if that goes too narrow, it's going to look wrong. Right now, like that's how I would almost finish out a knife. You're going to have to be very, very cautious about it. I want you to heat it up. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with Bill's piece under the press.
When we started this, we were going, it was doing a great job, and but like I don't know how my knife is ever gonna look like his knife.
And now it does. Yeah, dude, I'm proud of it. It looks great, man.
I am dumb because I was sort of want to get this thinking like you have to, there's a very precise way you have to do it, and the margin for error is so minimal.
Yes.
About that. Heat, obviously, it's got to be hot, but that hammer control and where to hit.
Yeah. Hammer control, where to hit, and I really think that a lot of it has to do with your own comfort. You know, once you observe how that steel moves, that's telling you so much about the material you're working with. And then you also have to get into the mindset of this is the temperature at which this moves. There's always different scales. And so when you start getting comfortable and it becomes really familiar, like almost ingrained in your head, then all of a sudden it's like the world becomes your oyster, you know. You can start manipulating that steel any way that you want. Maybe not with absolute precision to start out with, but that's what you need in order to start learning and developing your own style and everything else that goes along with it. What's that?
I've learned a lot.
Good. I'm glad you're learning a lot.
Because, like I say, I feel it. Now I'm not holding. You don't see me dropping my hand.
Right.
I
No.
how I'm holding it. I can feel the metal. Like
You are not one of those students. I've had certain students where I'm like, if you keep on dropping your hand like that, if you keep on dropping it too low and putting that bend in your piece, I'm going to start throwing hammers at you. And you're not that guy, so.
No, because when I was younger, everybody would do about the same thing or stand back with a stick or something, knock the hell out of you. When you weren't, what are you doing? Oh,
My grandfather, I think I mentioned earlier, my grandparents had a house down in Maryland. My grandfather used to throw oyster shells at me when I messed up. When I did something wrong, boom, man, that oyster shell would come whizzing by your head. Of course, nowadays, I guess that would be child abuse.
Oh, yeah. They'd be huge child abuse, I guess.
So, let's take a look. And look at that. I think he actually managed to get more length out of it.
Well, I'm gonna have to move the tip, so.
And there's just a slight bend there, like right there. But I think most of that, if you grind a little heavier on this side and a little heavier on that side here and there, yeah. Otherwise, that's looking pretty darn good. I mean, there we go. When that cools down a little bit more, we can go ahead. I have a yellow crayon over here. We can actually draw on it. No, they're looking great, guys. For the first knives that you guys have ever hammered out, and you have the distinct honor and the pressure of being the first people to ever do this live on the internet for a class. So, of course, I didn't put all that pressure on you. I didn't tell you that. while there's only like 4 or 5 people watching right now,
No, it's going to be on there for a lifetime.
it's going to be on there. Yes, it'll be on there for a lifetime. And, you know, I have videos on my channel that have over 100,000 views. So people are going to end up watching this.
Closest to being on TV, probably all ever get.
Yeah, so there we go, guys. That's I think that's a hell of a live stream. I think you guys did great. I mean, you know, we saw what it started out with, and what they become. Tomorrow we'll definitely have to go live at some point again, just to show everybody what they finished up like. But to everyone sitting at home, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate all of you being here. I'm gonna get these guys as soon as everything cools down. We're gonna do a little bit of work, but not much. Actually, no. I think we're just gonna go straight into the annealing oven, and we're gonna heat treat these first thing in the morning. And while they're doing their tempering, that means that you're going to be working on your first blades from earlier today. So tomorrow they'll be finishing up stock removal knives first thing, after they get these quenched and back in the oven. So thanks again for watching, guys. We will catch you on the flip side. See you soon. What am I getting?
Just time. In a minute, you do not know. What about in a minute? Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean first Tetris, just time. In a minute, just eat through down my enemy. Lose 500. We do not stop riding. What about Bill? Good man, right? Hey, watch out. Have not. Oh, my dear Bill. What about Bill? Good man, right? Hey, watch out. Have not. Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean what about Bill? Good man, right? Hey, watch out. Have not. They're dead. Oh, my dear Bill. What about Bill? Good man, right? Hey, watch out. Have not. They're dead. Oh, my dear. Catch me. Just time. In a minute. You do not know Bill. What about in a minute? What about Bill? Things are now in motion. You do not know pain. You do not know Bill. I'm gonna catch me. First Tetris. Just time.